Without microphone, there's nothing that I can say. Man, nice. What are we going to do today? Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Rüdiger and recently I stumbled across this amazing and interesting light twirl tweak noise thing effect, whatever you want to call it. I have actually no idea, but I like it. I really like it. It's done in Eevee. And I want to show you how it works. So yeah, I would say start up your blender and let's get into it. Alright, so at first we need an object that we can project our interesting effect onto, and I will go with the cross again. So I will take this default cube and turn this into a cross, and I can do this with hitting tab in order to get into the edit mode. And now I hit 3 and I select this plane, I hit E and I pull it upwards. And I select these two planes with holding down Shift, and I hit Alt E in order to select extrude faces along normals. And I will take this thing and I will extrude it a little bit more so I have a cross. Let me adjust it a little bit more. I think it should be a little bit more like this. So, alright, that looks good. Okay, so next thing I go into the modifiers. I add a bevel modifier to make this look a little bit more interesting, like that. Yeah, that should do it. And I go right click and hit shade smooth in order to have a better shading. Alright, now I split my screen and I go into the shader editor in order to create the shader that I need for this to come to life. So at first I want to have a nice golden material, and in order to be able to see it, I will change my preview mode to Eevee, and that is alright. And I will simply push up metallic to 1. I put the roughness down to 0.1 for starters, and I will choose a nice golden color for this. Alright, I want to see a little bit better what is going on in my metallic material, so I want to have a background and an environment texture, an HDRI, and for that I have a bunch of HDRIs in here. I will take the bathroom HDRI. You can download this for free on HDRI Haven. I think they changed the name, but I don't know exactly how it is named now. But if you Google HDRI Haven, you will find a very good database with free HDRIs. And so now it looks a bit better. I will blend out this HDRI. So I go to render properties, and below film you can activate transparent, and then you only see the cross. That's what I want. And I also want to subdivide the cross a bit, so I go into the edit mode with tab and I select everything with A, and then I hit right click and subdivide 3 or 4 times so it looks a bit sharper. Alright, also hit ambient occlusion and bloom and screen space reflections. Okay, that's good for now. So now comes the magic. At first we need a noise texture. So hit Shift A and S and type in noise. There is the noise texture. Choose 4D instead of 3D and hit Ctrl T in order to get the texture coordinate and the mapping. And now we need a few settings for this. Let's start with scale. Type in 0.25. The detail, type in 7. Roughness of 0.8 and a distortion of -2. So let's now create a bump shader. So hit Shift A, S and bump. And put the factor into the height and put the normal into the normal. And you should start to see something like this. What I also want to do is I want to change the input from generated to object. And now we have something like this. Nice, right? It's cool somehow. Let me reduce the distance of the bump map because it's a little bit too heavy right now. Let me see, 0.04. 0.04 should do it. Yes, that is very good. So, in order to animate this thing, we need to animate one setting, and that is the W setting of this noise texture. So how can we do this? It's very simple. We need this timeline, and you see the timeline down there. Let me take it up a bit so my portrait is not overlapping it. And what we now need to do is we need to add 2 keyframes, and that's it actually. It's not much to do. So I go to 0 and I hover over W and I hit I in order to get this keyframe into my timeline. If you click this little handle and you you click this little handle, open up summary, and if you click on noise, if you have it activated, you see that there is a keyframe now. So we have this 1, 0, and now I go to frame, I don't know, 100 for example, and I type in 10, and then I hit I again in order to activate it. And now if you shift through it, you see it is already animated. And by default, all animations have an ease in and out. We don't like this for this case, so I select everything, hit right click, and then I go to interpolation mode and click linear. So now you have a very nice linear animation of this. That's very good. Okay, next step. I want to pop up the effect a little bit more, so I will create curves between those 2 guys. So hit Shift A S and type in curves and put it between them, and then you create a nice S curve in order to crank up the effect a little bit more, like that. I think that might be good. Okay, how can we now create these crazy twirling light effects to this? So for that we need a second shader, and we need to mix these shaders with a certain value and a certain mask. And that's actually pretty easy, so let's do it. Hit Shift A and S and hit type in emission. We also need a mix shader, so put this in there. So connect the principal BSDF with the first slot and the emission shader with the second slot. Alright, and now we need a mask, and we can do this with this factor. And we will take our actual noise as a mask because we want to have the light only on very bright spots, so it only peeks through now and then, but not all the time. And for that I will create a color ramp, and we will take the curves color output into the factor input, and I will take the color into the factor. So now if you have your node wrangler enabled, you can hit Ctrl and Shift and click on the color ramp, and you will see the mask and what is going on in there. And what I need to do now is I need to increase the contrast extremely. So like this, I will take the left handle and pull it to the right, and I will take the right handle and pull it to the left. So I am left with something like that, and I hit space in order to run my animation. I think that might be already okay. Okay, so now I hit Ctrl Shift on the mix shader, and I increase the strength of this to 100. And here you have it. Look at that. Pretty pretty. Wow. Nice. Okay, I want to have this as a loop, so I have to reduce the frames of my scene. I can do this with the output properties, and I type in 100 at the end. And so it is like it's running in a loop. Yeah, it looks very cool already. So, I guess you ask yourself, how has he created this like blinking effect, like the color is changing between gold and purple? Let me show you how this works now. So at first I want to add another color ramp. And in the color ramp I choose the 2 colors that I want to have. At first I pick this one, so I go to the hex code of the base color and I put this into this spot. And on the right side I choose a nice purple color like this one, and then I take this handle over to the right, so it is over there. So now it gets interesting. We want this animation to change the colors depending on the time that has passed. So how can we do this? It's actually quite simple. We only need one node for this, which is the value node. Type in value, put it in, and connect the value to the factor. And now you hit right click on this field and you hit add driver, and there's a little new pop-up showing up, and we can delete this var. We don't need it. We only need this field of expression. And what I want to type in is sin for sinus. You might remember this from school. I don't know. There was something, you know, like in math. I never was really good at math, but yeah, there was something like sinus, and this is this curve that's going up and down. You might remember this. So, and if you have typed in that, you simply type in brackets frame. So you have this expression, and then hit enter. So now you see the color of this field change to purple, and that has something to do with the driver. And if you now hit space, of course now we need to connect the color to the color. And if you now hit space and you run the animation, you see how this looks, man. Yes, I love it. For my taste, it is a little bit too fast, so I want to slow it down. I now can simply click in this field because the driver is already added, and I go into the brackets and I type in 0.2. I want to multiply it with 0.2, so it becomes a little bit slower. Yeah, and now you see it. The changing of the colors becomes slower, not the animation itself, because that is driven with the timeline and with the W value of our noise texture. But the yeah, you know, the color, when the color shows up, it's now a little bit slower. You can even make it a lot slower if you would like type in like 0.05 or something. It would be really slow, and there the purple would also be, or the pink, it's actually pink, show up even longer. And now you can get crazy with your animation. You can also yeah, introduce different colors, for example green, and then it would look like that. But I don't like it with green. I want to keep it as it was. Alright, and I want to have it a little bit faster, so I hit frame multiplied with 0.2, and that's it. That's it. Yep. Nice. 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 And that is how you do this interesting effect. Actually not very complicated. Only a bunch of nodes and a little bit of animation. If you now want to have more of your bloom effect, you can go into the render properties and open up bloom, and then you can hit up the intensity even more, so it is like crazy blurry and glary and whatever you want. So nice. I hope you liked it. Please hit the subscribe button and the like button, and see you next time. Bye.